On August 15, 1977, something extraordinary happened that forever changed our view of the universe. For 72 seconds, a blip on a screen in a quiet Ohio State University radio telescope was so perfect and so strong an astronomer wrote "wow" on the printout. This one blip coming from deep in the Sagittarius constellation, a mere 45 light-years away. It wasn't coming from our solar system. It's never been detected again, and it remains the best candidate for an alien signal we've ever received. But what if it wasn't an alien signal? Let me explain. It's me, and this is the channel. Join with us and ask questions. We'll find the answers. On August 15, 1977, an Ohio State University graduate student was sitting in front of his radio telescope, looking at the printout from the Big Ear radio telescope. The telescope, nicknamed Big Ear, was searching for pulsars, rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit beams of electromagnetic radiation, and it was scanning the skies near the center of the galaxy in the Sagittarius constellation, where most of the Milky Way ES stars are concentrated. Stars like our Sun, including Alpha Sagittarius, also known as the Teapot. This bright star is the brightest of the 20 or so stars that form the Teapot asterism, a small group of stars recognized as a pattern on the sky. As Jerry Emmon looked over the printouts, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. One blip stood out more than all the others. As he stared at the unusual signal, he circled it and wrote "wow," and for good reason. First off, it was incredibly narrow. If you look closely at the y-axis here, each tick mark represents 50 megahertz, so this signal was only 10 megahertz wide, which is insanely narrow considering signals tend to spread out the more they re-beamed outwards like a flashlight. Second, it was coming from just one part of the sky, Sagittarius, meaning it had a very high signal-to-noise ratio. And third, it had come at just the right moment. The telescope scans the skies every 50 hours, and because the Earth rotates, these scans drift by 50 degrees every time they're performed. So a true all-sky survey requires multiple telescopes around the world that take scans at slightly different times. And the Big Ear telescope had taken its last scan 50 hours before the WOW signal was received, so it could be ruled out as a source of interference. All of these factors combined made the WOW signal incredibly unlikely to have been anything but extraterrestrial. And this is where things get really interesting, because it turns out the WOW signal came from just outside of our solar system, 45 light-years away in the direction of the Sagittarius constellation. That's just next door in astronomical terms. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly where it came from, because when astronomers pointed their telescopes towards the exact location of the XX location, it wasn't there. There's a big open question about whether it was actually coming from somewhere near Alpha Sagittarius, but if it was, that would make it incredibly close to us. Now, some people have argued that because the signal was so narrow, it couldn't possibly have been coming from just 45 light-years away. Surely a beam that narrow would have to be coming from a much closer distance. But that argument doesn't hold up because we know from experience how beams can spread. As mentioned earlier, the width of the beam is related to the wavelength and the distance over which it travels. We know how wide the beam was and how far it traveled, 45 light-years. Therefore, it must have been that narrow when it left whatever it was that created it. So, if the WOW signal was real and it came from just 45 light-years away, why aren't we getting more signals like it? Well, the answer might surprise you. You see, the WOW signal was detected by Big Ear. After astronomers discovered pulsars, they knew that pulsars emitted beams of radiation, so they set out to find more of them. Big Ear was searching for pulsars when it picked up the WOW signal, but after that, astronomers focused their efforts on newer, more sensitive radio telescopes around the world. The old Big Ear telescope was decommissioned in 1995, and the site is now used for educational purposes. But here's the thing, if you're going to build a new telescope, you want it to be better than the last one, right? Well, yes, but you also want it to be focused on the same part of the sky. Otherwise, you'll be searching for a signal that might not even exist. And sure enough, SETI researchers quickly searched other parts of the sky, but found nothing. So they began focusing on Sagittarius, but still found nothing. What they did find, however, was a huge number of pulsars, and that led them to believe that the WOW signal was probably one of them. After all, it was just a few hundred times stronger than normal. Surely, if it was an alien signal, we would have detected many more by now, right? Wrong. You see, While the subsequent search turned up thousands of pulsars, none of them matched the characteristics of the wow signal. In fact, none of them have matched those characteristics since the wow signal was received. The bottom line is that we have no idea what the wow signal was. It remains the best evidence we have for an extraterrestrial signal, but many scientists remain skeptical, believing it was probably just a pulsar or some kind of interference. There are two types of people who believe the wow signal wasn't what we're looking for. One is the person who thinks the wow signal wasn't an alien signal at all. Rather, it was some sort of interference from a human source. And the other is the person who thinks the wow signal was actually a natural phenomenon, a rare event that will never happen again. Here's why I think the wow signal was neither of these things. First off, let's talk about interference. Could this really have been a human source, masquerading as a natural one? Well, sure, anything's possible. But there are three reasons why I think it wasn't. First off, the wow signal came from just one part of the sky, Sagittarius. If it was an artificial signal, then whoever or whatever sent it would have to have known that Big Ear was scanning the sky in that direction. But nobody knew that Big Ear would be scanning the skies in that direction, and certainly no human could have known that a telescope would be operational at a specific time in a specific place, 45 light years away. Secondly, the signal had a very high signal-to-noise ratio. If it was artificial, then it would have had to have been created specifically to mimic a natural signal. But we know that these signals are naturally occurring, they just appear. And finally, we have checked the data ourselves and couldn't find any errors or signs of interference. Alright, now let's talk about pulsars. Many astronomers believe that the wow signal was just a pulsar, but there are two reasons why I don't think that's the case. First off, pulsars are always repeating. If the wow signal was a pulsar, then it should be doing it again, but it hasn't. Secondly, we have looked all over the sky for similar signals and haven't found any. We just haven't found any. Okay, so if it wasn't interference and it wasn't a pulsar, then what was it? Well, we don't know, but there are a couple possibilities. My personal favorite is that the wow signal came from an alien probe that detected our planet and sent back a message to its creators. If you think that's crazy, then check out this video. I'll see you there.